Okay, welcome. I'm very, very happy to introduce Yvette van Boven and her husband, Uf Verschoren. Better practice that. She's going to talk about her latest book, Homemade Summer. And this was a collaborative effort. Uf did all the wonderful photography in this book. And so they make their home between Amsterdam and Paris. And Yvette's going to talk about how she got here, what started her on this journey of becoming a chef and author. So welcome.
Thank you. Hi, so my name is Yvette van Boven. I was born in Ireland, actually, and I was raised there, and I moved to Holland when I was 10 years old. So I'm a bit of everything, as I believe that you are all a bit of everything, coming from all parts of the world. I would like to tell you a bit about how I actually came here, to stand here in front of you, because my life did not start off that way. My dad was a landscape architect, and he wanted to move from Holland. They were Dutch. My parents were both Dutch. He wanted to move from Holland to Ireland because it was a more freer spirit at the time. It was this late 60s, beginning of the 70s. And so they started their family there. They had me and my sister. And we were very much encouraged to be artistic. So after spending 10 years there, we moved back to Amsterdam. And I went to the secondary school in Holland. After staying there, I thought I would like to be an artist. My parents had very much told me to be artistic. They had given me all kinds of paint and paper and all kinds of things to encourage us, me and my sister both. So I went to the School of the Arts in Belgium, and when I was there, I realized, well, I might not be a real artist. It's very different. It was very hard for me, actually. I could do the drawing part, but I was very, I felt very strange being in front of big white screens of paper and thinking, oh my God, what should I paint on this? So actually, I decided then to move up to The Hague and go be an interior architect. So I studied there for many years. In The Hague. Simultaneously, I always worked in restaurants just, to earn some extra money. I had been cooking everywhere, and because I have been studying for a very long time, I've been cooking for a very long time too. I've actually started off cooking when I was only 4 years old. I would be standing beside my mother, and she would cook in her kitchen, and I would be just beside her on a little stool and drawing everything she would be cooking, because when I was 4 years old, I was not able to write. So I made little drawings, and you will see them back in the book, because I've never changed that way of drawing things. Sometimes I find that drawings are more quicker, because if you need to put a sentence down, like, pour this into the pot, that will be just one arrow to draw. So sometimes I was, quicker. So you will find those things back in my work, too. I was doing all these drawings at the same time, just, for fun. And also for the restaurant where I worked at, they enjoyed me and my drawings too. So I was doing the menus there and just doing these little things on the side while I was studying at school. And we were working in a very small little breakfast and lunch joint where we would cater from at a particular time. I was working in the kitchen with a very good friend of mine, and a lot of people came up to our kitchen and asked for recipes, because I think our cakes were really good. So they were all coming up and asking for, can we have your recipe? And I would write them down for everybody personally. So we were getting a little bit fed up of this, because it was, there were a lot of people coming over. So we decided to make our first book. So I talked to the owner of the shop, and they decided that would be a very good idea. So I wrote the whole book by hand at night after school, because I did not know how to work a computer. I had never sat beside a computer before, so I did everything by hand, and then the publisher would scan all my drawings in. And when I finished the book, we needed a cover, because we didn't have any photography in it. I made all the drawings of the dinner, of the dishes myself. So for my former work, where I worked before, I had met this nice guy who was actually became a very good friend of mine. So I said, I know a very nice guy. He's a photographer. We can call him and ask him if he can shoot our cover. So that was Oof. We went to his studio in Amsterdam, and when we finished the pictures, my two friends who were with me from the kitchen made a bet that we would be together after. That was because we were falling in love over the camera, and we have stayed together ever since. So that was a very nice start of my career in cookbooks, but I did not know that at that time because I was still in school. I needed to finish my school become an interior designer. And so I finished that, and I opened up my first design office. I did this with my sister because my sister had done a similar school of the arts in Amsterdam, and she was a graphic designer. So we were both doing jobs, especially for hotels and restaurants. We would, do the menus, do the interior, do all these things, do the signing, and all these outings that they would need. And we were working as designers at that time. And I was missing cooking terribly, terribly, because I did not work as a cook at that time. I would, work as a designer. So often Ulf would ask me, would you mind just to help me out? We have a picture coming in tomorrow and I need someone to cook a dish because there has to be some food in it. And at that time, I did not know of the job of a food stylist. I did not know that this existed. It was not a real, it wasn't a real school for it or anything. So I just accidentally got into this job as a sort of side job, making lovely plates. And actually, that was for me, that was the same as working as an artist, because you had to make a composition. You had to really think about what you were putting on the plate, trying to put the colors on a different, arranging them differently, and also knowing about cooking, because you need to know how to cook everything properly to make it look good on a picture. So this was a really, really nice job. I really enjoyed it, and through Ulf and through his network of people he knew at magazines, I got more little jobs like this. So I was doing this food styling thing on the side, and I got to do little drawings for magazines, or I would be writing recipes, or all kinds of things like that. And this was all my side jobs, just beside my designing job. So after a couple of years, I was working quite hard. And at night, I would say to Ulf, I would really, really rather bake cakes. I think baking cakes is nicer than walking around building sites wearing a helmet, talking to all these guys who are doing their work or jobs well or not, and So I thought I might go for it. So I talked to my sister about it, and she was actually quite happy because she wanted to be an artist, and she became one after. So that's great. And so we closed down our design shop, and I started off with a catering business from my home, which was tough, but it worked. We rented fridges and put them, and we will live in Amsterdam at that time, and we had quite a small house, because in Amsterdam the houses are not very big. So we had a small house, but a big kitchen. It was actually a big kitchen and a bedroom, something like that. You should think of it that way. And we would have all kinds of fridges that I would rent down our living room, and all rental crates, with cups and saucers and everything that came in for special occasions and weddings, and we had to carry them all out. And we had groceries down the hallway, all piling up. So I did this for a couple of years like that, and I was working as a food stylist, recipe writer. I would do all these kinds of jobs too. So this was getting a bit out of hand. The jobs were getting bigger. First I was starting off cooking for 30 people. I ended up cooking for 80, 90, 100 people at that time. So I had a lot of help of my cousin, Joris. And he came in, he was working in a hotel at the time, and he came to help me out. He would do all, he would get people to serve, and we were setting out all the tables while I was cooking at events. And he said, well, we need to find a space together. We should, we could collaborate really well. So we need to find a space together. So he was really excited. He's a lot younger than I am, and he's very, very energetic and funny and great. So he was running around Amsterdam looking for a place. So he found this very tiny little snack bar in the eastern part of the center of Amsterdam, which was by then, I think it's 7 years ago, was then a bit of a rundown area, so we could get the space for quite cheap, and had a great back space, so we could put all our fridges and all our dishes and china and everything could be stacked up there. So that was terrific. And we started at the snack bar to clean it out, and we thought we would be open in about 6 weeks or something. That became 6 months. So we were doing the whole place ourselves because we wanted to save some money. So I think we made our restaurant was really homemade too. We had taken off every tile, we had put on back every piece of platter, we've been painting everything. And then finally we opened our doors. And we started off as a breakfast and lunch restaurant, and actually we just wanted to do catering jobs, and we thought we'll just, people can come in if they wanted a sandwich or anything. But it was becoming quite a big business, and we were having groups in for, people renting the place for special occasions and things like that. It was a very small restaurant, it's not huge. So we worked very hard at the time too, and trying to get everybody in, and also learning how to build up a restaurant, which is, is quite a job if you have never done that before. And then something a little bit sad happened. I had a sort of medical horrible thing with my back, because it's just a hard job. I mean, carrying things around for catering for 20 years is sort of being like a mover or something, So I needed to stop for a moment, and I needed to take some time off and wait. I was waiting for operation, boring story. Anyway, I was at home, so I needed to do something with my time. And I thought, well, this is the perfect moment to start and write a book. So this is actually my third book, but I had two of them before this. And so I was at home. I was a very fond reader of cookbooks. I could read cookbooks as novels, actually. I would read them going to bed or in the bathtub, or even in the toilet. We have cookbooks everywhere piled up. So I was looking at books, how I like them. Some books I really enjoyed the writing, the stories that the cookbook writers would tell. Some books were really pretty. I love the pictures in it, or the way that they were illustrated, or all these kind of things. So I imagined my own book, like putting all these things I loved so much from other books together in my own head, and try to express myself in my special way. So I had never written a book before, and I went up to my publisher, who is my publisher now in Holland, and I asked him, could I show you my proposal? I just made a couple of pages. I would like to see if you're interested. So with trembling knees, I went up to his office and showed him my first example of how my book would be. I had made a table of contents. I had talked about it a bit, and I had also, made some drawings, and I also do the whole design of the book. So I had done everything. I made the cover. I had done some shots with Ulf, and showed it to him, and he said, "Yes, you can do it." So I was thrilled to bits. I was actually, so happy. I didn't imagine it to be so easy. So I went home, and we started off on this book, and it was quite a journey. It was called Homemade. It's my first book, and you will recognize it because it has big tomatoes on the front. It's blue and red. And it's a book about everything homemade, obviously, because I had been writing for so many magazines, for so many years, for so many groups of people like housewives or young girls, or these magazines all have their own groups that they are writing for. So I had to read, or I had to write for all these kinds of people. So I really knew, or I really found out that a lot of people were actually afraid of starting to cook, and also they would not know that things would be so easy. I grew up, my mom would teach me how to make cheese. This was a very easy thing. You would heat up milk, add some acid to it, and then it would curdle, and then you would put it in a sieve, and we would hang it in our tree. We had a lilac tree in the garden. It had low branches, and we would hang it in the tree and just wait it to soak out, or what do you call it? And then we would we would keep a little cheese at the end. So that was really great. These things that I thought were very normal to me were not normal to all these people. So I decided to put this all in a book. So how to pickle things, or how to make a smoker oven without using difficult appliances like smoker ovens or ice makers, or just a knife or a cutting board or a piece of tin foil, just things that you would have lying around, making cheese without using a rennet. Things that are available in the stores, not very hard and not too difficult to find. But also I wanted to make a book that made you turn every page, that every picture would be different, that I would make drawings, to make it different, just to make you turn the pages again. I would make cutouts out of paper to design my chapters. I just made all these things to tempt people, just to turn the next page and read again about everything. And I tried to make a book that was very personal to me, because it was my story. And that really worked out. We worked on the book for about, I think, a year and a half. And then it came out, and then we had quite a success with it. I was so surprised, because I initially made the book just for myself. I just wanted to have a book, to hold it in my hands, and to have something that I actually made, And we won prizes with it, and we got published in all different countries, not only here in America, but all over the world. The book got translated in German, and it got translated into French. So that was really terrific, and especially for, just a girl coming from Holland teaching French how to cook. That was really nice. So then my publisher asked me, could you make another one, because this one is doing so well. And we decided not to make one, but make two. One was called Homemade Winter, and the other one is Homemade Summer, as the book you were all holding in your hands. It's the same principle I kept of teaching people how to make simple things like yogurt or cheese or all kinds of things, mustard or ketchup or all these things yourself, but keeping it very seasonal. So my winter book was more about the winter and long nights, and well, you don't have that here. I think the weather is so beautiful. But in Europe, believe me, trust me, it's terrible. We have awful winters, and it's cold and snowing. So you would be in the house, and you would have time, and you would make soups and comforting things and stews and everything nice. And in the summer, well, when it's weather like this, we all run out of our houses catching every beam of sunlight we can get. But also the produce is, of course, great. So you would only want to mix up things very quickly and then run out of the house again. You would not want to cook for a very long time. So that is the summer book. It's all about quick and fast and summery and fresh and celebrating fruit and vegetables and lovely things. So that book also got translated in many languages, and I was very happy. And the restaurant is still doing very well. They have managed to, the girl that was working beside me in my kitchen at the time I was working there every day, she took over the kitchen when I was getting my treatment, and I was writing the book and doing the menus together. We were, I was still very much involved with the restaurant, which is still open until this day, and I have taken on a lot of jobs just to do work at the side. So I'm working as an illustrator. I work as a culinary editor for a huge women's magazine in Holland. So I make about 5 to 10 pages per week, and I write columns and about food, and for magazines and newspapers too. So it has been quite a journey, I can tell you. And it brought me to here, so that's really great. From being starting off as an interior architect and now writing cookbooks. And we are now very fortunate to be working on our 4th book. And we are trying to reinvent ourselves, Ove and I, because we have been working so closely together for 3 years on all these 3 books. And we're now trying to do something different, testing out new ways of taking pictures, new ways of illustrating, and we've got a subject we're going to work on, and it's going to be a big book, and we're going to work on this for another year and a half again, so that's quite a nice job I'm really looking forward to. So that is my story a bit from the beginning to the end. Well, it's not the end. I hope it's not the end, but I hope I'm in the middle of it. But that's up to now. So that was what I would wanted to share with you guys. And I hope you have some questions for me now so I can answer.
Thank you for coming here and speaking. I was really curious because I looked on your website and
Yes.
you had the cantaloupe, goat cheese, and basil soup.
Yeah.
That really sparked my interest because I wanted to know how you look at different ingredients and how
Yeah.
you go about maybe like the flavor profile or the texture and say, I want to try this. Maybe this will work. Like, why go towards basil versus tarragon, or how many iterations would you do until you go like, that's the one?
Well, actually, I write. It's a nice question. Thank you. I like to, like I said earlier, I like to make very simple recipes with ingredients that are very available. But I like to do little surprises. So like you said, it is. There was a very strange combination. I actually write these recipes in my head. So I would first think of them, and then I'll try them. So I will write them out. And because I have quite an experience, I think, for writing recipes, I can just think about the amounts I think I'm going to use. And I'm actually always looking at a very regular palette. So like you would use sour to balance out sweetness, or you would use saltiness to balance out sweetness. You always have these things that always work. Like if you are eating, a very traditional way of eating cantaloupe in France, for example, is wrapping raw cured ham, salty ham around it. So salty flavors work really well with this sweetness of the cantaloupe. So I was just, if you think a little bit further, you could say, well, ham is salty, but cheese could also be salty. So let's try that out. And then I would add basil just to use something really fragrant. But also I was thinking of the colors on your plate. You have an orange soup with these white spots and green oil on it, and it should be spectacular. And it worked. So that is how it happens. Yeah, it's funny. But it's always a sort of mixture of visual and tasting and then trying it out at home, mixing in more ginger, less ginger, more white wine, less just trying it out, and then you get it almost okay, and then you put it in the book.
What are your favorite foods to experiment with? And you said your mom taught you how to make cheese. Do you have any family recipes that you've put a different spin on, or that you just love to make as a traditional recipe that you would include in your book?
Yeah. I actually am very fond of ginger, I must say. I have to withhold myself not putting ginger in absolutely everything, because it's nice and lemony and it's peppery and has such a distinct flavor, and it pulls out, I think, a lot of taste, a lot of So that is one of my favorites. I'm very fond of melon, actually. We were talking about that earlier. I'm very fond of all kinds of herbs actually every single herb on earth. I would say like chervil or basil or cilantro or all these kinds of things. And I love to mix them up and even eat them as a salad, you know. So that's something I really enjoy. And to answer your next question, yes, I do tweak traditional recipes. We live in Amsterdam, but we spend a lot of our time in Paris. I think a quarter of our time is there. And every summer we go down to the south of France. But also I have a lot of recipes from my time in Ireland, especially for, you know, cakes and baking is terrific in Ireland. So these are basics. Traditional recipes are always basics. And they are, sometimes I put them straight away in my book because I find them really good and they're very good as examples, maybe sometimes of a story, but sometimes they're just good. But traditional recipes are nice, you know, to change a bit. I think a lot of recipes in general are very, what would you say, are very, they are like fashion. You know, we would cook asparagus now for only 10 minutes, but my mother used to cook them for 25 minutes. My grandmother would cook them, you know, almost like puree. So these are things that are, you know, are changing. So traditional recipes change with the time too, and you would tweak them to a more modern version. Like now we would eat much more raw vegetables. We would eat much more vegetables than I think our parents did. So I would mix that in much more, yeah.
I was wondering if when you are experimenting with something that's really out there, is there a point where you say like this sauce or this attempt is not going to make it? Like you start to tweak it and add a little bit more of one thing or another. How do you with your experience or know when to stop dumping in new ingredients or repurpose it maybe for something else?
Oh yeah, that happens too. I couldn't tell you if a recipe never worked. I mean, it works. It always works at some point. I mean, if you've been working as a cook for so long, you don't make really big mistakes, you know, except for, you know, putting too much salt in something or. But I'm blank now because you asked something else, and I had an answer right away when you asked it. What was the second part of your question? It was. Yes, thank you. It is actually like the recipes in my books are often smaller versions of how we would do it in the restaurant. So restaurant cooking is very, very different from home cooking. You know, you always have a big pan of broth lying around. You always have, you know, super meats and things. So you always have to, you know, tone it down a bit for recipes in a book. So I would actually really change things. I would, if I would have a recipe in the restaurant on pheasant, and I would think, well, people don't have pheasant lying around. I could convert it to chicken and see if that would work too. But also, writing recipes for different magazines is also a thing that you have to think about. You know, have to think of your audience. And if I'm writing a recipe for people living in villages, I would never use ingredients that you can only buy in cities. So that is something I really look at. And I could tweak existing recipes just, you know, to make them more popular for another audience. Yeah, I would do that. So I'm very good at looking around in supermarkets, always looking what kind of stuff do they have, so I can put them back into my recipes. Yeah.
So my wife is she's probably got 500 plus cookbooks, and she's like you.
She's like me,
she literally reads them as novels. She doesn't buy so many anymore because she just goes to the library. And the librarians are very, very nice to her. They put her brand new cookbooks in the back for her, so she checks them out. Always has piles of them everywhere, and she's just reading them all the time. I'm very excited about this one to be able to give to her. It's really about the idea of how you look for things that were really important to you and put them in. And so my question is, you started off with one cookbook and decided you were going to put some things that were really valuable, what you thought were very important but easy. And then you ended up going to 3.
Yeah.
what happened? How did you decide what to put in the first one, and then did you run out of material and all of a sudden realize you were doing 2 more? And then how did you go through that process? And do you have everything you want in a cookbook from that perspective now? Are you done with that part?
I actually had, I think, a quadruple pile of recipes that you have to kill your darlings when you're writing a book. So I would say the first book was, I was really focused on all these different kinds of curing or making cheese or making sweets or making snacks or making all these. So this was very, I made a real strict table of contents to keep myself focused. Obviously, I had more recipes laying around. I'm writing, I think, about 15 to 20 recipes a week for all my work. So this is a constant flow of stuff I have lying around. When I started off on the winter and summer book, I already had things divided. At the time when I was writing my first book, I did not know that I was going to write 2 more. So I was actually happy that I could, but I already had some stuff lying around. I also wrote things specially for the 2 other ones. Just, when you start out and then you are looking at the composition of your work, you are looking at, do I have a lot of red meat? I've got too much red meat things. I should balance it out and make, write some more with fish. So you will have to, you have to balance it out very well. So sometimes you don't have them lying around. You're testing just to make a nice composition of recipes in your book to make a whole story. Yeah.
If I were, picking this up, which I am for the first time, like, what are some of your favorites that I should try out first?
In the book?
Yeah.
This book?
Yeah.
Oh, there are so many.
Like, what are your favorites?
Well, one of my favorites is actually not only when we were talking about soups earlier. One of my favorites is a white gazpacho, which is actually more adventurous, I think, than the Cantaloupe soup with cheese. Is a soup I tried out because I'm very fond of cold soups in the summer. I called it gazpacho. It's not because there are tomatoes in it, but then you would know it's a soup. It's a cold soup. I was looking at a balance between sweet and savory. So I made a soup with smoked almonds. I was looking at the ajo blancos. It's a Spanish soup made from almonds and white bread and garlic. So I was trying to make a sort of retake on that. So I used smoked almonds, white or green seedless grapes, cucumber, and some vegetable broth. And I mixed it up, and then I added things like vinegar, just a little bit to balance out the sweet-sour balance, and white bread to make it nice and soft. And if you put it in a blender and blender it down, you will get a sort of incredible sort of smoothie kind of soup. And then I would add a big lug of olive oil at the end to make it nice and soft and creamy, and serve it with avocado. And I think it was, I could just say for myself, which is really funny, but it was an amazing soup. I was very happy with that. And it's also nice because it's a 2 minutes job, you just open up your blender, put everything in, put it on, and you're done, yeah. So I think that's one of my favorites. There are many, but that was one, yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you all for coming.